Physics 100. I am Professor Curtis, instructor for this course, and this video is supposed to be giving you a signature assignment overview. In other words, we're going to look at an overview of your signature assignment, what it is, and this is going to replace lab time that we had scheduled, which on the new schedule is now the 24th of June. So you don't have to come to lab, you just watch this video instead of coming to lab. Isn't that nice? Well, why do we have a signature assignment? Well, it's because Physics 100 is a general education class. You're using this to meet your general education requirement, and so that's why we have a signature assignment. So basically, this is going to involve a laboratory investigation. It's going to be similar to the labs that we've been doing so far in this course, but there's some important differences that we need to go over. First of all, you actually get a choice of what subject area you're going to be investigating. So whereas many of the labs, the subject area is chosen for you and you just run through it, with the signature assignment, you have a choice. There's 4 different options, and we're going to go through each of those options in this video. You're going to employ the scientific method for your chosen subject area. So you'll first start out running through a similar lab activity like what you've been doing so far with the other labs, but then there comes a point where it's like, okay, now you got to take one of the variables that you were working with and you've got to change it in some way and then employ the scientific methods. You got to make a hypothesis, you've got to test the hypothesis, you've got to get results, compare them with the hypothesis, and make a conclusion. So then after that, you're going to document all of this into a final report, put that into your portfolio in Blackboard, and that's going to be your signature assignment. So today in this lecture, we're going to provide you with some more details about each of these different parts. So first, let's take a look at the schedule for the signature assignment. Notice we have here 3 sessions there in the schedule. The first scheduled for Monday, June 24th. That's the one that this video is running you through. And then we've got 2 more where you actually show up in the lab. The second one, you actually have to be there. The third one is actually optional. You may or may not want to be there, depending on how you get things done in the second session. So the first session is what we're doing now. That's an introduction to the signature assignment. And then afterwards, you're going to select your area of interest. And then sessions 2 and 3 are going to be time for you to actually do your experiment. So you'll definitely want to come for the second session, run through your experiment, and then if you need more time to run the experiment, or you want to run it again a different way, or you want to collect more data, then that's what the third session is for. Most students get everything done in the second session, in which case they don't need to come for the third session, so they don't. But that third session is there in case you do find a need for it, and some students do. And then, of course, once you get all of your experimenting done, get your data, then you can put everything together in a final report. The deadline for the final report is 1 to midnight on Wednesday, 17 July. That should be 2019, not 18. No, it's a typo. So it should say 2019. And you notice that's the same day as that third lab assignment there. It's a week before you take your final exam in the class. And that's one of the reasons why the deadline is not at the end of the semester, but actually, 1 week before the end, because this way it gets it out of the way and you can focus more on your third exam and the final exam, which is really what we're going to be doing that last week of class. So, as I mentioned before, you get to choose an area of interest. So here are the interest areas that you get to choose from. The first is centripetal force. The next is projectile motion. Then you've got the speed of sound. And then you've got radioactivity. So you have to select one of these areas of interest no later than 1 to midnight on Tuesday. So yeah, you don't want to put this off. Right when you get done watching this video, go ahead and select that area of interest. There's an assignment there in Blackboard that will let you do that. So go and get in the assignment and just follow it along, and then you'll get that done and out of the way. Now, to help you understand what you're actually choosing between, let's go through each one of these areas of interest in a little bit more detail. because each one of them has a predetermined lab setup. So here's the first one, centripetal force. You can see the equipment that you'll be using there. You basically got a weight that you're going to be rotating around the central shaft there. And then there's another part where you're actually hanging weights and then using a spring to counterbalance it. And that's a second part of the experiment, and that's what you see pictured there in the picture. So you can capture data related to forces and rotating motion and examine how these different variables are related. One of the reasons why we set up this, this little experiment here is because we don't actually go over centripetal force in the lecture. So that's something that you'd like to add to your education from this class. This is a great area for you to select. Next, we have projectile motion, another area that we didn't cover in lecture, but is also important. So basically, you've got a billiard ball, or we've got other balls that you can use and choose from. But basically, you've got a ramp, you elevate the ramp, and then you roll the ball down the ramp, and you basically make predictions on where it's going to land on the floor. So you've got a tape there for marking distances, you've got a stopwatch for keeping time, you've got tape to mark where it is, and it's not pictured here, but you'll get a meter stick so you can measure distances. And it's just basically simple projectile motion lab. You're going to predict where the projectile is going to land on the floor. So you can capture all kinds of data related to the height of the track, the distance the ball travels from the edge of the table. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with this. So if that interests you, then this is what you want to select. Next up, we've got speed of sound. So you can see we've got a microphone that's hooked up to Logger Pro. We've got a little clicker device there, and you basically click the clicker there on the edge of one of the tubes. We've got different sizes of PVC pipes, and the sound waves travel up and down the pipe. You can see the waveforms that are there captured with the Logger Pro from the microphone that's hooked up to it. And so there's all different things you can do with this to capture different sound waveforms for analysis, different size tubes, different lengths of tube, different things you can experiment with this. Again, we're not actually doing much with the speed of sound in the lecture portion of the class, so if this is something that interests you, then you might want to go ahead and select this for your signature assignment. And then last but not least, we have radioactivity. Now, we are going to go over radioactivity in the lecture portion, and this is actually what the signature assignment used to be. It used to be that everybody did their signature assignment on radioactivity. And then I came along and said, what are we doing? Let's give people choices. So, some people, even though they have choices, they want to do what, has always been done, and that's with radioactivity. So we can see here we've got, a Geiger counter that's set up with Logger Pro, and you've got different samples that are emitting different types of radiation. You've got different types of shielding there, so made from all sorts of different materials. So there's all different things you can experiment with here. So you can add the distance to the shield, the type of shield, how much shielding you have, all sorts of things you can play around with here with the radioactivity. Now, if you're hoping to, part of your play with this is going to make you glow in the dark, well, that ain't going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen. But yeah, there's still stuff you can do with this that's really interesting, and a lot of students enjoy this. So if that's your cup of tea, then go ahead and make that selection. Okay, whatever you do, you don't want to put this off because your selection is due a minute to midnight on Tuesday night. So don't wait until then to make your choice. Okay, you want to go ahead and do the smart play. Right when this video gets done, go into Blackboard, make your selection, and get that done and out of the way. Then you just get it done. Okay. Now, when you get done with this selection assignment in Blackboard, it's going to give you a score. And some people see that and they're thinking, oh my gosh, it's a partial score. It's less than 100%. Well, what does that mean for my grade? It has nothing to do with your grade. It doesn't figure into your grade for the course, for the lab, for the signature assignment, nothing. Okay, the score that you get is just something that helps me to put people who pick the same thing into the same group. It's to help me make groups for your signature assignment. So once everyone's made their selections, I'll go through and I'll put you into groups. Of course, if you don't select anything, then I guess you're going to get what I give you. That's a possibility. And so if that's your cup of tea, then hey, I'll just assign you something. And then, you'll be stuck with whatever I assign you. But once the groups are made, then we'll get on to the next step of the signature assignment. And that's going to be in that next signature assignment lab session that you saw there in the schedule. So when you come for that second session for the signature assignment, you're not going to have to print out anything. Normally for your labs, you print something out and bring it to lab to help you run through the lab. You're not going to need that for the signature assignment. I'll have the printouts for you. I'll have the lab equipment there. I'll have everything set out so that you don't have to do anything but just show up. Okay, just show up and I'll run you through the stuff that you need to do there in the lab. And then, once you get started, okay, you run through a little exercise that'll introduce you to the equipment, and then you'll get to play with it. Play as in, with quotation. I've got air quotes here. You can't see it, but I got air quotes. So you can play with the equipment, okay? Figure out what variable you want to change, and then you're going to use the scientific method as you change that variable, make an observation, form a hypothesis, test the hypothesis, and then get the results to say, hey, is the hypothesis proven or not proven? You're going to have 2 lab sessions to do that work. Again, most students get everything they need to get done in just 1 lab session, in which case they don't have to come back for the second lab session. But there are some students who want to come back for the second lab session. And so that time is set aside there for those students who want to do that. Once you get through with everything in the lab, then you just put everything up into a final report. There's a document that I'm going to put up in Blackboard that will contain all the details that you need for your final report. A lot of students ask about structure. A lot of students ask about format. There's not a whole lot about format there in the document, and that's because I don't want to go into a lot of detail about, how you have to use a certain size font and a certain type of font and have margins be a certain size. Look, just use something that looks good, okay? If the format's too distracting, then, you're going to lose points for that. But as long as it's not distracting from the content you're presenting, you'll be fine. Again, the deadline, minute to midnight on Wednesday, 17 July. You don't have to wait until the last minute to get this in. If you get it done early, you can go ahead and turn it early and just be done with it, okay? Now, because this is going into your portfolio, there's a strong recommendation that, you get this stuff looked at. So go through the Writing Center. If you want me to look at something, I'm willing to help you out with that. But, make sure that, if you're going to give it to me or to the Writing Center, make sure that you give, people time to actually go through your document and give it back to you in time so that you can meet your deadline and not be late for that. So if it's Wednesday and you're kind of putting everything together last minute, you're probably not going to get help from me or the Writing Center. But if you do things ahead of time and get us to us in advance notice, then yeah, we can probably help you out someone with that. So that's pretty much what you got to choose from. So what is it that you're going to choose? Remember, choose wisely, because whatever you're stuck with, that's what it's going to be. So we've got the centripetal force, we've got projectile motion, we've got speed of sound, and we've got radioactivity. So now's the time when you need to go into Blackboard and get that selection assignment done and completed and out of the way. So thanks for watching this. So go ahead, get that assignment done, and we will see you in the next video.